Welcome to the 3 a.m. tapes, where sleep is a suggestion and the strange is just beginning. Here you'll find chilling stories, unsettling mysteries, and disturbing tales that slip through the cracks of reality. Whether it's haunted truck stops, lost tapes, or things that knock after midnight, every upload is a whisper from the dark. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and press play. Just don't fall asleep.
Rain spat against the windshield in thick, angry drops. The wipers smeared muddy arcs across the glass, barely keeping up. Dean Everett hunched forward in the cab of his 18-wheeler, one hand gripping the wheel, while the other cradled a lukewarm gas station coffee. His eyes were rimmed with red, blood vessels mapping a sleepless web from hours on the road. 17 hours straight, only broken by a 10-minute piss stop and 2 refuels. He needed sleep. Soon. His route from Amarillo to Albuquerque had detoured after a chemical spill shut down the I-40. GPS sent him down a crooked back highway, Route 119, a forgotten stretch of asphalt that hadn't seen maintenance since the Clinton years. The truck rattled over cracks and shallow potholes as tumbleweeds flitted through his headlights like frightened animals. The land stretched flat and empty in all directions. No towns, no lights, just black horizon and desert scrubland. A sign flicked by in the rain, barely legible. Restwell Motel, 2 miles.
Dean blinked. Hadn't expected anything for another 100 miles. The caffeine was failing. His eyelids fluttered despite himself. 1 second, maybe less. He nodded off, then jerked awake as the wheels bumped the shoulder. His pulse slammed against his ribs. Shit. He spotted it a few minutes later, tucked behind a scraggly row of creosote bushes and barbed wire fencing. A crooked neon sign hissed into the darkness. Rest well. Only the first 4 letters still worked, the T blinking weakly like it was gasping for breath. He turned into the gravel lot, headlights sweeping over a sagging 1-story strip of rooms. 6 units, all dark. No other cars. Dean parked near the office and killed the engine. The silence was immediate and unnerving, broken only by the ticking of his cooling engine and the distant chirp of desert crickets. The rain had thinned into a lazy drizzle. Inside the office, a pale green light buzzed overhead. The front desk was empty, but an old brass bell sat on the counter. A crooked sign behind the desk read, "Vacancy, clean rooms, weekly rates." Dean rang the bell once. The chime echoed like a scream in the small room. A minute passed, then another. He rang again, louder this time. From a back room, a figure emerged. A thin old man in a moth-bitten cardigan and thick bifocals. He looked at Dean like someone might look at a stray dog. "Need a room," Dean muttered, tossing a credit card onto the counter. The man took it without a word. swiped it through an ancient machine, and handed back a rusty brass key marked Room 3. "No smoking. Check out at 10, the man rasped. "That's it?"
The man didn't answer, just turned and disappeared into the back room. Dean stepped out into the drizzle and headed to Room 3. As he unlocked the door, a low hum began behind his eyes. Not sound exactly, more like a feeling, a vibration. Fatigue, he told himself. Nerves jangling after too many hours wired on caffeine and diesel fumes. The room smelled of bleach and mildew, peeling wallpaper curled like old scabs at the corners. The bed was stiff, the blanket rough and pilled. A dusty TV sat on a dresser, unplugged. In the bathroom, the mirror was cracked and clouded. Water dribbled from the tap with a rusty cough. Dean didn't care. He shed his boots, collapsed onto the bed fully clothed, and closed his eyes. He didn't sleep. Dean lay on the bed, muscles slack, eyes closed, but sleep remained just out of reach, a mirage he couldn't touch. He felt it taunting him on the edge of consciousness. Every time he began to slip under, his body jerked him back up, his heart skipping like a scratched record. The hum was still there, low, insistent, like a motor behind the walls, or was it in his ears? He sat up, blinking into the shadows of the room. It was darker now. The only light came from the parking lot through the thin curtain, orange sodium glow seeping in like sickly moonlight. He checked the clock radio on the nightstand. 3:17 a.m. Hadn't he just checked in an hour ago? Dean rubbed his face, skin clammy under his palms. His hands trembled slightly. He hadn't felt like this since his first long-haul gig back in '09, running trucks through sleepless nights, surviving on gas station jerky and 5-hour energy shots. But this was worse. A deep unease was coiling in his gut, like his body knew something he didn't. A noise broke the silence. A scratching, faint, but deliberate. Dean's head snapped toward the wall above the headboard. The sound repeated. Slow, steady. It wasn't a rat. Rats scurried. This was paced, patterned. He pressed his ear to the wall. Scratch, 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 pause. Then again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Like fingernails. Okay. Nope, he muttered, pulling back. His heart tapped harder. The hum seemed louder now, and beneath it, a whisper. He strained, holding his breath. Nothing. Then, creak. Not from the wall, from the room above. But there wasn't an upstairs. The motel was a single-story building. He stood, muscles stiff, and crossed to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. He avoided the mirror. Something about it felt wrong, like he'd look up and see someone else's eyes looking back, not his. The faucet groaned when he turned it off. In the mirror's broken shards, the distorted reflection of the bathroom door behind him seemed wider than it should be. He shook his head. "Get a grip, Dean." He shuffled back into the room and froze. The TV was on. Flickering, crackling, static filled the screen. No sound, just that white noise hiss. Dean hadn't plugged it in. He walked to the outlet. Nothing in the socket. He yanked the plug anyway. Watched the cord droop to the floor. The screen stayed on. What the hell? He reached behind the TV and found nothing. No power strip, no cord snake, nothing that explained how it could be operating. His skin tingled with goosebumps. The hum in his skull became a buzz, like a swarm of insects under his scalp. Then the screen changed. From static to video. Grainy, security camera quality, black and white, a hallway. Not this motel, at least not this part of it, but the wallpaper looked familiar. Dean squinted, leaning in. The hallway on screen was empty, dimly lit by a single swaying bulb. At the end was a door, closed. Suddenly, the door opened. A woman stepped out.
Long, dark hair, pale arms. She moved slowly, barefoot, wearing what looked like a hospital gown. Her head tilted to one side, like it was too heavy for her neck. She turned to look straight into the camera. Dean stumbled backward. The screen went black. His chest heaved, sweat prickling along his collarbone. He turned toward the window. Something moved just beyond the curtain, a flicker of motion too quick to catch. He yanked the curtain aside. Empty parking lot. No rain, no wind. But the neon sign outside, the one that said "Rest Well," was off, not flickering, dead. He backed away from the window, heart hammering. Then, tap, tap, tap. The sound came from the bathroom mirror. Not the wall, not the sink. The mirror. Dean turned, and in the fractured reflection, something was standing behind him. Dean spun around, but the room was empty. He stared at the spot where, just a moment ago, the mirror had shown someone or something standing behind him. A shadow, tall and still, its form warped in the broken glass. He turned back to the mirror, only himself now. His breath fogged one of the shards. He reached out, fingertip trembling, and wiped it away. Behind the smudge, etched faintly into the silvering beneath the glass, were 5 words, nearly invisible unless you were looking for them. Don't stay in room 3. Dean jerked his hand back as if burned. A deep, unspoken instinct began rising in his chest, some primal warning buried in the human-animal part of his brain. Every inch of his skin felt tight, his jaw clenched, his hands were fists without meaning to be. This wasn't sleep deprivation. This was something else,
Something real. Something wrong. He shoved on his boots, grabbed his wallet, and reached for the door. Locked. The knob wouldn't turn. No rattle, no resistance, just a dead hunk of metal. He yanked harder, then pounded the door with his fist. "Hey, I want out." No answer. He turned back into the room and stopped cold. There was a door now, where the TV had been. Plain, wooden, faded red paint. No knob, no trim, and no number.
Just a door, built into the wall, like it had always been there. His eyes darted to the bed. The TV was gone. Not moved, not unplugged, just gone. Dresser gone too. The layout had shifted somehow. The wallpaper behind where the TV had been was different, older, yellowed, streaked like water damage had soaked through for years. Dean approached the door, heart thudding in his ears. There was a sound on the other side. Breathing.
Low, rhythmic, wet. It didn't sound human. He stepped back, grabbed the brass key from the nightstand, and tried the original door again. Still nothing. He kicked it, shoulder-checked it, screamed until his throat burned. No give. The room didn't care. Then the light flickered, and from under the new door a shadow pooled. It moved like oil across the threadbare carpet, slow and steady, pushing itself under the gap like it was alive. When it touched Dean's boot, he jumped back, nearly tripping over the bed frame. Then the door creaked open, an inch, then 2. Beyond it was dark, not the absence of light, a presence, a void, pitch black, like someone had torn a hole in reality. And within it, shapes, just outlines, hard to hold in the mind, like your brain didn't want you to process them. Dean ran to the bathroom. Window, tiny, maybe big enough. He pushed up the glass. It stuck. He heaved harder, and it cracked, then slid open with a screech. Cold air rushed in. He shoved his head and shoulders through, but something caught his belt. He was yanked backward, slammed onto the tile floor. Air punched from his lungs. The bathroom door closed. Click. Dean scrambled to his feet. The room was silent again. Too silent. Not even the hum now. And the mirror was gone. The wall where it had hung was now blank, clean, fresh paint. It wasn't just the mirror. The whole bathroom had changed. New tiles, new sink, modern, sterile, like a hospital washroom. Dean stumbled out.
The room wasn't room 3 anymore. The bed was gone, furniture stripped bare, fluorescent lights buzzed from the ceiling. The air smelled like antiseptic and old paper. It wasn't a motel room, it was some kind of ward. And the red door was still there, waiting. A sound came from behind it.
Deem. Not a voice exactly. More like memory given sound. His name in the voice of someone long dead. His father. No, Dean whispered, backing away. Dean, open the door. You left me in there. His knees hit the ground. He squeezed his eyes shut. You're not real. But when he opened them, the walls had changed again. They were covered in photos, hundreds of them. All of him. Sleeping, eating, showering and truck stops, dozing in his cab. Someone had been watching him for years. Dean couldn't breathe. His eyes darted from photograph to photograph, each more invasive than the last. In one, he was brushing his teeth in a Flying J bathroom. In another, slumped over a Waffle House counter at 3 a.m. There were pictures from places he hadn't been in years, some that no longer existed. And they weren't all recent. There were childhood photos, too. Ones he'd never seen before. One showed him sleeping in a bunk bed, 6 years old, a Spider-Man nightlight glowing beside him. Another, grainy and color-faded, captured him sitting on his father's lap, maybe age 4, in their old farmhouse. But no one had been in that room with a camera. His mother had died before digital cameras even existed. He backed away, eyes wide. No, this is a trick. This is sleep deprivation, a hallucination. Yeah, microsleep. That's all. Truckers get that. I'm probably still in the truck. But the smell was too real. Mildew, antiseptic, the cold concrete under his knees, the static charge in the air real, tangible. His brain might have been scrambled by fatigue, but his senses were sharp, crystal sharp, painfully so. He turned toward the door he'd come in from, now gone. In its place, a window. Through it, moonlight bathed a white-tiled hallway, the kind you'd find in a hospital or an asylum. A shape moved past. Dean pressed his face to the glass, squinting. The figure was hunched, dragging something behind it. A long coat? A limb? It moved slowly, shuffling in painful, rhythmic drags. The hallway beyond seemed endless. Fluorescent lights flickered with each of its steps. He stumbled away from the glass, back to the red door, that horrible, waiting door. It was different now. Older. The paint bubbled like diseased skin. Deep gouges marred the wood, like scratches had cracked it from the inside. And now it had a number. Infinity.
He wasn't sure when it had appeared, but the figure-8 loop sat there like an accusation. Like something was laughing at him. The door pulsed, not moved, breathed, as if the wood had lungs.
A sound crept in, soft, familiar. A lullaby. His mother's voice. Golden slumbers fill your eyes. Smiles awake you when you rise. Dean clutched his head. Stop! Stop! Sleep, pretty baby, do not cry. Her voice echoed in the room, bouncing from wall to wall, too close now, as if whispered from behind his ear. And I will sing you a lullaby. Then, silence. The photographs began peeling from the walls, one by one. As if lifted by invisible hands, they rose into the air, spinning slowly like leaves in a breeze, before floating into the red door. It opened, only a crack. Beyond it, there was no hallway, no room, just void, black and endless, like the inside of a dying star. It had weight, pull, like it wanted him. Dean backed away until he hit the opposite wall. But the room pushed, the floor shifted beneath his feet, tilted, angled toward the door, like gravity itself was changing. He fell forward, grabbing the floor's edge. Concrete burned his palms as he held on. From within the door, something crawled out. It didn't have a form. Not really. Just limbs that didn't move right. Shadows that twitched when nothing else did. A smell, rotted breath and blood, filled the room. It leaned toward him. It had his face. No eyes, just skin, seamless, a mockery. You've never slept, really. You dream behind the wheel. You blink at 70 miles per hour. But you've never let go. And now you will. Dean screamed. He felt himself sliding, feet losing traction. The creature opened its mouth. Inside was not a throat, not teeth, but a motel room. His motel room. Bed made, TV off, clock flashing 3:17. Again. The creature's body began to unspool. Threads of it reached for him, pulled him across the concrete floor toward the opening. He fought, kicked, clawed, but every breath was heavier, like sleep was being forced on him. Then, darkness. Light. Blinding artificial light buzzed overhead, bathing the room in sickly fluorescence. Dean gasped and sat up. He was in room 3. Same bed, same peeling wallpaper, same thick smell of bleach and mildew. The buzzing TV was off. The red door was gone. His boots were off again. His jacket was folded neatly on the dresser. For a few seconds he simply sat there, heaving breath into his lungs. Sweat had soaked through his shirt and dried again, leaving salt lines like tide marks. His pulse pounded in his throat, in his wrists, behind his eyes. He felt like he'd run a marathon through a war zone. The clock on the nightstand read 6:59 a.m.
Sunlight slanted in through the curtain. The parking lot looked normal, empty but real. Even the neon sign outside buzzed again, blinking its crooked message. Rest well, vacancy.
Dean stood shakily, knees aching. Every joint felt used, abused, like he'd aged a decade in the night. He opened the door. It swung freely on the first try. The air outside was cool and crisp, with the faint scent of mesquite and early morning dew. His truck was still there, exactly where he'd left it. He wanted to leave now, but something tugged at him, a thread in his mind. He needed to know, to be sure he hadn't hallucinated it all, some terrible dream from caffeine, exhaustion, and a bad sandwich at the last truck stop. So he turned and walked across the gravel lot, back toward the office. The bell still sat on the counter. He rang it. The old man didn't come. He waited, then leaned over the desk, calling into the back. Nothing. On impulse, he leaned further, reaching for the dusty registry book. Only one name was written in the last 72 hours. Dean Everett, room 3. Paid? Yes.